All right, welcome everyone to your March energy update on the Ginette Biro Podcast. I'm Ginette Biro, and thank you so much for joining me. I can imagine many of you are wondering, man, if all of that transpired in February, because February was a very big, deep, transformative month, both individually and in the collective. It was fruitful, but we had to work for those fruits, right? And if that was February, and February kind of finished off with some real significant changes. And what I mean is the war in Ukraine. What the heck does March have in store for us, right? That's a lot. I mean, we're stepping into a new month, and although sometimes that's a relief feeling, it can be really taxing on the nerves. The anticipation factor is really high in many ways. And so I want to talk first about that anticipation factor. And Spirit said, instead of sitting in the energy of anticipation, sit in the energy of now. Now, this present moment, this moment where you're watching this right now with me, joining me in this energy exchange, sit in this now. Just be present here. There's nowhere else you need to be in this very moment. And honor the peace of that. Because when we can keep returning to this present moment, to the now, it's from there that we can really start to create, manifest, move forward, put into plan the things we wish to have flowing in our lives. And the reason why I say that is because March is an energy of forward movement. Okay, so what I have to share about a lot of these energies right now is actually really positive. So I do want to say that, but I don't want to take away from the amount of work that February was. It was very much a lot of work, a lot of cleaning house, cleaning closets, in the emotional self, the past traumas for some, even just past ancestral patterns for others. It's a releasing of that. And now we're in this place of, we've made our big manifestations, especially those of you that really took advantage of the 222 portal. That was a big time to really set those things into play. And now we are stepping into March, and March has no planets in retrograde. That means increased flow, because we have no planets that are energetically pulling ourselves backwards. Nothing is pulling our energy away from the direction we're wanting to go. And I believe that March is the only month of the year that we don't have any planets in retrograde. So this is a real high action, forward movement month. So when we can focus on that and be in that energy in the now, we can really help all of our manifestations move forward with basically nothing blocking us. Because here's the thing, oftentimes our energy and our thought pattern can really block the manifestations in our lives. Like I've said before, when we let doubt creep in or real negative thinking, and I don't mean that we need to be positive every second of the day, but it's like, when we start feeding ourselves negative narratives, right? I will never be good enough. I am not worthy. Who am I to do A, B, C, and D? When we really start feeding that to ourselves, we block movement. So if we really harness the energy of March and we move forward and we don't block the flow, you will be amazed at how much will fall into place for you this month. So let's look at that. March 2nd, we have a new moon, and this new moon is all about calm, creativity, and expansion. So again, if you take all the things that you manifested and you put into place energetically, February 22nd and even February 2nd or February 20th, any of those days where you really kind of put that energy forward, you have an opportunity to refresh that, to reevaluate anything that you did. Again, we're using a number 2 here, March 2nd of this new moon. Wonderful time for manifestation. So it's like the energy of the number 2 of March 2nd is asking you to just check your list again. And if it is all systems go, then you are on your way. I'm being shown in my mind right now, these taps opening, right, to full flow. So really consider that. And again, that's being in an energy of calm, creativity, and expansion, not being stuck in fear narratives. So I want to talk about that too, is fear narratives have an opportunity to throw your energy off as well. And it's not about not experiencing fear, but it's about recognizing once you've experienced it, then what are you going to do moving forward? Because to stay stuck in fear will keep you in this like turbulent cycle, this ruminating cycle that just goes around and around and around. And that doesn't do us any good. We need forward movement. So if you catch yourself in a fear narrative where you're sort of stuck, you start looping your thought patterns, that's when you need to change your energy around somehow, by doing something fun or creative or anything that can pull your full attention away. And then you change that and you start to think of what you want to do. You consciously change the narrative so that your mind can run on that one. That's going to be really important, because that is then going to lead us into the energy of March 20th. Again, we have a number 2 here, but March 20th is the equinox. This is a beautiful time. I love the equinox. It's a time of balance. It's a time of balancing the light and the dark. That's when we have the sun, or well, not the sun, but we have the light, the amount of daylight and the amount of darkness is equal. And from that point forward, though, we have the light dominates longer and longer and longer every day. And I love that because to me personally, that is a real return of the light. The solstice is a return of the light because we finished the darkest day. But I find the equinox is when the light, to me personally, has the upper hand. And it's just this energetic knowing of that. There's something about being set free in the equinox to me. And so I really want to share that. Yes, it is about balance, but it's balance, but then that moves the light in our favor. So I want you to consider that, because when you approach that energy of the equinox, recognizing where you have created balance in your life and recognizing how you can sit in a state of balance or harmony, and then you take that energy and you move forward with it into flow and embrace more of the light, then you are like manifesting magic. I'm seeing sparks and stuff. So there's something really valuable about that. Now, I do want to say too, we are holding an event at Avalon Spirit for the equinox. So it will be on the 20th. It is a Sunday. And we're going to have some of the other personal journey guides, as well as myself, talk about that, talk about the balancing of the light and the dark, healing modalities, things like that. So if you are interested in that, you can sign up for that on avalonspirit.com. If you are wanting to dive into some kind of ceremony to honor that balance point. So the equinox, again, beautiful opportunity to tune into the energies. Just before the equinox, actually, I forgot to mention, we've got a full moon on the 18th as well. So it's a great time to see your dreams and manifestations come to fruition. March is going to be a really good month. Now, on the world scale, a lot of people are wondering what is going to happen on a world scale. Now, that honestly is a challenge to tune into. I did try tuning into it yesterday. And what Spirit said to me is that it is basically a day-by-day process, because there are some very key figures that can determine the way this goes. And they are in human form, obviously, because that is up to free will to a certain degree. Spirit can only follow the highest probability that they receive from that person's energy or those people's energy. And that seems to be changing on the daily. So when I asked them, like, okay, so fair enough, we have to kind of tune in daily, see what's happening, hold our frequency high, because our frequency, like I've been saying before, helps to create a higher energy for the planet. So we can do that. But they said, overall though, know that we have your back and we'll step in some form when needed. And they kind of left it at that, and they didn't elaborate to say how they would step in, exactly what they would do. But to me, it feels like, well, actually, they're saying right now, they're like, it's not something we can explain. So I'm not sure what that means, but the universe does have our back. The guides in the higher realms have our back, but they said the probabilities and potentialities are changing on the daily. So for someone to say right now, this is what's going to happen with the Russia-Ukrainian war, this is going to be the outcome, it is changing so fast. It's like watching the stock markets up and down, up and down, up and down. It's hard to say because there's so much free will involved in the decisions that are being made, which are being made continually. But what we can do about that, though, again, from our own personal level where we sit right now, is really dig into shining our vibration or shining our light, keeping our vibration high, and being kind. Be willing to remind people that humanity is good. Humanity is good. And we are seeing that in many different ways, people stepping up in different ways, support, people that are surrendering, who don't wish to be fighting on the opposing side, people that are, really speaking up for what is not right. That is humanity as a collective stepping up. And so Spirit is saying, don't discount the amount that we are seeing in humanity stepping up for the energetics of some people up top that unfortunately control a lot of the puppet strings right now. And so again, I think that's where they're really feeling this, or where they're really giving me this energy of positivity. And again, I'm not saying the war is positive, but it's the choices being made within that by the greater collective is positive. And they show that to me with like trumpets, almost like angel trumpets. So that's something to consider for sure. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is, so one of them was us holding the space. Spirit really said we needed to hold the space, hold our frequency high within that space, continue shedding what we no longer need, because in the situations of these rapidly changing times every day, it's going to trigger different things within us. And it's really important for us to hold our frequency high, but let go of stuff that no longer applies. So when you're triggered, recognize that it is a trigger, see what it is telling you, and move through it, because you'll find you may actually be moving through things way faster. Now, if I come back to this idea of flow, March having more flow, which is already starting right now, you also have a greater capacity of feeling into your intuitive sense. So with this flow, we will have more ability to tune inward and see what resonates. Whether that be messages from the higher realms or what you want to do within you. This flow helps us almost expand our frequency that much more, basically making us all more intuitive, more psychic, and have more ability to communicate with spirit too. So you're not limited to your communication with spirit either. And March is a wonderful month to take advantage of that. March is also a month for igniting your passions further. We do step into Aries in March as well, which is a fire sign. So we move from the emotional waters of Pisces into the fire sign of Aries, action potentials, passion, desires. We will also see, for some of you, you'll see a reconnection in relationships, or maybe drawing forward beautiful partnerships, which can be romantic for some. It can also be business partnerships for others, or deep friendships. It's really a month of, again, with all of that flow happening, it draws all those beautiful energies to you, those soul families, even soul fragments of self that you are wishing to reclaim within you. This month's energy has the potential to bring so much goodness back to you. It's very much like a harvest month. Now, although I know technically it is a spring month for us here, it's also, Spirit keeps showing it to me like a harvest month. So that's something to consider, seeing how far you've come. It's kind of like enjoy your growth, but also reap the rewards of how hard you've been working. Which brings me back to February. We didn't go through February for no reason. It wasn't just, rainbows and lollipops. It was a tough month. And they're saying, watch what can come from the energy, from what you've manifested. See how you can observe the rewards or the growth, watching your seeds grow, right? Because a lot was put into play in February. And that's what's really exciting about this kind of crossover energy that we're in right now. For some, you're going to already be seeing some of that growth. For others, it's like, just hold tight just a touch longer, and that energy of faith and trust, hold your vibrations high, and you'll start to see that growth happening this month. Okay. Now, the last thing I want to leave you with is, oh, Spirit's just talking. Hold on one sec. Okay. They're saying, for many of you, hold tight to your faith in transition, which is sort of what I was just mentioning. And I think they're coming on the heels of that. They're saying there is still an energy of transition, even from these merging timelines that I was talking about in February. We had a few timelines kind of braiding over top of each other, which added an amplification of energy, of things we needed to look into. That's part of why February was so intense. But they're saying this braiding is going to last just a little bit longer before it splits up again. But what that braiding did is it gave us the max amount of change and potential in multiple timelines so that when they went individually again, we would be able to move forward with greater growth in more timelines, which is a really important thing. So they're saying that transition period is still going to last probably until around March 10th. Some of you may come out of it individually a little faster. Some may be up until March 10th, but it shouldn't be lasting longer than that. So that's also something to consider if you're noticing a lot of deja vu right now still, or conversations you think have already happened, but then the next day someone's like, no, I never did that. Or you've lost emails that you swear you had all the emails come through, but then suddenly they're gone and you're like, what? How is that possible? And there's no documentation of it. These are when different timelines cross over and different things happen within the same reality. It's a hard one to explain really quickly, but in essence, Spirit is saying there are still some unique, synchronistic, funky observations to be had of these crossovers. Also, energy sometimes can be really draining, but they're saying that will really dissipate, and by the 10th, it should be gone. So March overall has a really positive energy. This is a good thing. This is something we should really spend as much time as we can focusing on, because when we do that, it's not false positivity, but rather it's conscious choice to hold that frequency high. And one of the kindest ways or simplest ways to do that is kindness. Be kind. Be kind in these times of war, of rebellion, of when we are slowly coming out of a pandemic. Be kind. Everybody is moving through something or multiple things on many layers. And so we need to truly choose to be kind to self, but also kind to others. It makes a difference. It helps humanity remember humanity is good and it's growing and ascending. So I'll leave that with you guys for now. Thank you so much for joining me on the show. Oh, I hope March is wonderful for you. I've got lots of great content coming down the pipe for this month, so do check in. Definitely some beautiful interviews as well. And for everything else, you guys check out avalonspirit.com. Like I said, if you want to join the Equinox event with us, you can sign up there. And as well, if you are watching this, please do subscribe and share it with someone that may benefit from this message. And I will be back again next week.